Alright, welcome back to number 2. What we're going to be doing here is I want to continue where we left off, and that is we have our texture DTX9 folder, and you either have copies of this folder here in it, or you just have a naked texture.cfg. I said naked. So go ahead and launch FSX. We want to test this out and make sure your entries are correct. If you screwed up line 1 right around now, you should be getting an error saying that you have a duplicate entry for your titles. So we want to just make sure that we're looking at the right thing. So go into your change aircraft and make sure that you have show all variations checked, publisher, PMDG, and find your thumbnail. Now mine's already done here. The Boeing 737-900 NGX, winglets, 900 winglets. And let's go ahead and launch that, and you launch your corresponding one, and we'll get right into it. Now, the first tutorial we did, the written tutorial, we cover everything you need to know about doing a repaint, as exact as possible, down to the last rivet. This one is going to cover a much more complex, and I know a lot of people are rolling their eyes at that. Well, let me tell you something. When you have a repaint, you have the internet as a resource, and that's a pretty huge resource. When you're creating something yourself, you have nothing to go by. And if you've ever seen an author writing a new book, staring at a blank typewriter, or, blank screen, Word document, whatever, he can do that for days. And when you create your own paint, if you're not copying something else from somebody else or an actual existing library, then if you've never done it before, then get ready to also sit there for hours, days, and possibly even trashing days of work because you don't like it. It's very complex, and not only that, but there's so many things I can teach you with doing an imaginative or a fictional paint that I can't teach you otherwise. So I don't want to show you here in this view. I want to get right into it, but real quick on this view, when you test your paints throughout your painting, there's no reason to launch FSX 90% of the time. When you're getting started especially, this is the only view you want. If you use your mouse button, your middle mouse button, you can zoom right in and you can check out the detail and you can look right at everything you want. So that's really all you need, for now, for starters, getting into it. Alright, so let's launch this and get to work. Alright, while this loads up, I do want to go over one thing real fast, and that is be sure that you're watching this in 1080p, and be sure that 1080p is selected. It depends on your preferences, but it should be automatically selected, but you'd have to enable that in your YouTube preferences. It never hurts. If it doesn't say 1080p, don't assume it's 1080p. Set it to 1080p. If buffering is a problem, then pause it, walk away for a minute, whatever, and come back, and it should be all set. But 1080p is going to help you see what really needs to be seen, and especially when we get into Photoshop, the tools, the toolbars, the layers, naming, and tips. You're going to want to see everything. Alright? Throughout the rest of this video and the next video, I'm going to be showing you some tips on how to inspect your libraries, what to look for, and I'm also going to be showing you what you can create and different things that we will be covering throughout this tutorial. Okay, here we are. What we are looking at right now is we're far away, and I like to do this because I like to move up on it slowly and see what catches my eye. And what catches your eye, guarantee yourself that it's going to catch somebody else's eye. So that's what you really want to focus on. When you're in normal pan mode, it just doesn't cut it. For something like this, you would need something like DBS Walk and Follow or the newer EZDOK or EZCA. Alright, so let's take a look at what we're looking at here. We have a lot of gradient work going on, and that is to better explain to people that have asked me questions on how to align things. The bump mapping is quite exaggerated for a point. I have redone every single rivet and line on this aircraft to better teach you these steps later in more advanced lessons. But a lot of the things that you're going to be seeing right now are just things like the back line there, aligning that. The rivets on the right side might not line up with the left. We'll work on that. And here you're looking at that little exaggerated effect. Personally, I like that. I like to see the rivets. I want to see the mechanics of the aircraft, but to each their own. The winglets, also, you have two different textures that make up the winglets, and matching up gradients is somewhat difficult at times, but the engines, oh my god, 6 different places on the texture for the engines, so that's the big one for the gradients. And there you see the shine in the bumps. The rivets and the lines are very detailed and again exaggerated to a point, but they have to be to a point. This is about the smallest I would make them personally, because it's just, they won't stand out if you don't. And again, we have the normal line everybody likes to put through their aircraft. And again, matching that up on the sides is really key, and getting it perfect on the nose is also key. The wings themselves, you can see a little bit of darkness. The flaps, you can see a little bit of shadowing taking place as I pan over it. The shine being replaced or going what I call inverted. You'll see a lot of different things that you can only do with the bump mapping. I do have a little glitch on the outside wing there that I can't seem to get a hold of yet, and we'll cover some of that a little later. But when looking at the wings and looking at that shadow that you're seeing right there, do you see the curve to the flaps? That curve, again, is just bump mapping. You can't do that with paint. Now there's a possible next paint, huh? Actually seen that requested a few times. And the engines. Well, like I said, there are 6 textures, or 6 areas of the texture that make up this one pylon and engine. The nose, again, you want to make sure that the line's perfect. And I didn't add that much dirt to this aircraft. The door panels, I did add dirt to. But again, as we change our angle in different times of day, we're going to see different shades happening with the bump mapping. The tail itself, you can't really see that much in this particular view. I don't have the sun shining through the clouds, and that's another key point. And we're doing it in cloudy weather. Watch as I turn here. Now do you see, probably not in the video, but because of the bump mapping, again, the whole look is starting to change just a little bit. And I don't think that the NGX had enough bump mapping, personally. Definitely not for my tastes. But I wanted to do a lot of work on the exterior. And once again, coming in from an angle, coming in from far away, you're going to catch some glitches. And I'm seeing right now something on the top rudder that I might have to focus on a little bit more later. As painters, the second that you finally do say, okay, it's done, within a minute or two, you're like, oh, I forgot this. And that doesn't matter if you've been on the paint for 5 months. You always do it. So these kind of steps help you. I haven't really got into flying this yet. All I've been doing is painting with it. It's kind of hard to do when you really want to play around with it, but that time will come. I like the tire shake there. That is really cool. And the sounds too are just phenomenal. You see a little bit of soot there on my pylon at the bottom. I did my own custom shadowing, my own custom dirt, and I will be showing you how to do the same. And let's pass this cloud layer here, and let's focus on the fuselage, focus on the lighting, how the lighting is going to change hitting your aircraft, especially when you paint with a gradient. You can get some really weird artifacting, I guess is the favorited word. But what you're seeing is the way your video card might be handling certain textures at certain distances. Do not paint with, some people try to correct that with MIPS or MIP mapping. Don't do that. You're going to ruin your paint. It's going to cause the blurries. Not a good idea. And file size. So again, we have the sun to our back left. So it's just gleaming right off the top. The time of the day is pretty good for this particular flight. For this particular inspection. Matching up the tail color. Testing that. And that's something that you're just not going to get perfect. Not for every time of day. That's how FSX decides to light it. So that can be frustrating. Here it looks good from this angle and in this light. But again, you might be parked on your favorite runway getting ready to take off, and like right there you can see the huge contrast difference between the two. There's some things you just cannot help. And that's about it. We should probably get into the next video, which will do the same thing but more at dusk. This is kind of close to dusk, but I want to do one almost in full darkness, or at least from dusk going into darkness, to show you some other key points. That line that you're seeing right there is because of the exaggerated bump mapping. It's not something that you might hear reported as far as people having problems with the line. That's a line that I actually have on there with 2 rows of rivets, one on each side of that line. Because most fuselages are built in sections, and that's why that is there. Well, that's about it for now. I will see you in the next video, and we will wrap up our inspections.